Hello plant people, it's Nora the Leca Queen here. Thank you for being with me today. We are going to talk about roots, what to do when the roots in your semi-hydroponic setup are overgrown. We're going to talk about root trimming and general root maintenance. I've got my Monstera Thai Constellation here with me to help demonstrate what we're going to discuss today. So as you can see, this plant is living in Leca and this is the reservoir and it has just gone crazy. The roots are everywhere and I need to do a few things to take care of this plant. So with any plant living in semi-hydroponics, you do need to maintain your plant. So it's not just an issue of putting it up in Leca and forgetting about it, because those roots do grow. And in as much as they are Leca roots, they are water roots, you still can get root rot in semi-hydroponics and you still can get a plant that is root bound. So there are two things that you can do. You can repot your plant into a bigger pot, or you can actually trim your roots. And trimming of the roots, as long as you're not taking so much of the root ball out, will not harm the plant. Now, why do we need to do this? So if you don't, the plant might get root rot, but also the plant is not able to properly absorb the nutrients because of the root ball, and it's not going to grow to its full potential. So you do need to sort of manage those roots as they grow. So with my Thai Constellation, I am going to take it out of this pot. I am going to examine the roots and I will show you what they look like and we will see where we go from there. So I've got my plant here and I'm going to gently take it out of this pot. So of course I hold the plant between my thumb and my finger and take out as much of the leca as I can. And oh, look at that. That is as much as I can get out. That plant, I'm holding that plant upside down. That is how root bound that plant is. So I now need to squeeze the pot and try and get as much of that leca out. That is just so impacted in there, and eventually this plant will start to go downhill. That is so hard. So I am just gently squeezing. Although I have to add, it's not so gentle now. It's really, really tough. Oh man. So I finally have this plant out of the pot. That is the very definition of root bound. This plant has taken the shape of the pot. That's the base. This can't be a good thing in the long run. So I'll need to do something about that. So try and get as much of the leca off as I can. So that just comes off really nice. There's actually a hole in there. That's where the bulk of it is. And at this point, I just want to show you. So the history of this plant is that it was living in soil, and then I put it in leca and it's been doing really well there, and that's where the bulk of these roots have come in while it's been living in leca. But you can see that some of the roots are actually coming off, you know. So even though these roots have actually developed in leca, they do die off after a while. And having all this material in your leca will actually encourage root rot. So you can imagine bacteria starts to grow on these dead roots and all the microbes start to multiply, and it's not healthy for your plant. So what I'm now going to do is actually take this plant to the sink and rinse this root ball off. So try and get, with the help of water, as much of the dead roots off as I possibly can. And then we'll look and see what is viable. So let's do that now. So we're here at my sink, and I do have a colander in here to help catch the leca and all the bits of roots that are going to come off this, so they're not going into my plumbing. So I'll turn the water on, just warm water. You don't want cold water to shock your roots, and I'll just start to wash that off. This is all the root material that has come off my plant. And that's fine for that to be disposed of. This is the root system that I now have. And those roots are all now clean and viable. And I'm not having too many bits of roots that are sloughing off that are now going to go into my leca. This is a root that was actually growing outside of the pot. You can see how straight that is. That was on the outside. So that's my plant, and I'm happy with that. So I've rinsed off my plant, and these are the roots that I'm now left with. Look at that. How glorious is that lovely curtain? It's literally a curtain of roots. I mean, some of them are still coming off. Right? It's just try and get all those ones that are coming off. Get to a point where none of the roots are coming off. What I could do at this stage is actually trim some of those off as well. The plant doesn't need this whole system. I could trim some of them off, so I'll show you how I do that. So I've got a pair of scissors here that I sterilized, and I'll just look at my roots, and the ones that are not looking nice and bright, see something like this over there, that can go. You know, this, look at that one right at the end there. It's really dark. It's feeling, look, just by touching it, that comes off. So I probably just want to get rid of this whole one. This is a root that was growing outside. I can just trim that, and that's fine. I'll get rid of that. And I'm just looking to see anything that looks remotely suspicious. I'm just going to chop that off. So that one looks like it's split halfway. I can chop that off. That there. See, it looks like it was squashed at the bottom of the pot. I can get rid of that. I don't need that. The plant doesn't need that. And, you know, the plant is healthy. It's constantly growing new roots. So doing this is not going to harm the plant unless you go ballistic and cut off the whole root system, which we are not going to do here. So I'll cut off something else there. Might chop that off. So that is root trimming. The plant can always make more. So that's what I'm left with. And I'm happy with that. So those roots are lovely and healthy, and I am ready to now repot my plant. So because this is a Monstera, I know it's going to grow, and I know it's going to grow really quickly, and it develops nodes very quickly. So you can see here, this is actually an area root. That's a node there. That area root's going to develop, and I need that to go into a moss pole. So I am now going to actually put this plant up on a moss pole, and then I am going to pot it up in a slightly bigger pot. So that's the plant, moss pole we go. So I've got a moss pole that I made earlier. This is a moss pole with a plastic sheet backing. If you haven't seen any of my videos where I make a moss pole ready to be potted up in Leca, please click on the link above and that'll take you straight to it. So this is my moss pole here. It's going to look very, very pretty on that. It's a short one, so the metal rod is a bit longer there, but yeah, I don't care. And so I'll show you how I do that. So of course, the first step is to attach the plant to the moss pole. So that's my plant attached to my moss pole, and that is what's going to go in the pot. I've got my pot here. I'm not using a pot that's clear, and that's only because I can't find a pot of this size that's clear. The clear pots go from 10 to 14 and jump all the way up to 20 centimeters. I don't want to put this plant in a 20 centimeter pot. That's way too big. This is a good medium, so I'll just have to use this, unfortunately. It goes against everything I believe in, but what can I do? What can I do? So I will put about 1/3 of Leca into this pot as I prepare to pot my plant up. I am going to show you something though that is a little bit different from all my other videos. I am going to actually attach the moss pole to the pot this time. That's something that I almost never do because it's way too much worth the trouble, because when you're trying to take the plant out for maintenance of things, then you have to separate the moss pole from the pot. But I'm going to show you how you can do that. So on this pot, you will see that I have 2 holes. There's 2 holes on this pot, and I'm going to use these holes to affix the moss pole to the pot. So I've got my cable tie. I've got a slightly longer cable tie here, and I will put that in there, knowing that this is where I'm going to put my moss pole. I grab my moss pole and I put the plant in there. Right, so that goes in. So I've got this cable tie. I'm going to put it there behind this rod, and I'm going to put it through that hole, that second hole, and then what I'm going to have is, oh, would have been so much better if this pot was clear, wouldn't it? So that's my cable tie there. And then I will now secure the cable tie. And that secures the pole to the pot. And what I'm going to do now is fill the rest of this pot with the Leca. So this plant is now in a bigger pot, attached to a moss pole, and the roots have been given some rehab, and I think it will do very, very well now. So yes, you do need to take care of your roots that are living in semi-hydroponics. So you're either giving it a bigger pot or you're trimming the roots. Ideally, you're doing both when those roots are very, very prolific. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the time that you spent with me rehabbing my Monstera Thai Constellation. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in my next video. Thanks. Bye.